Hey, welcome back to the Game Dev Breakdown podcast. My name is Todd Mitchell. I'm back tonight with John Scheiber, and we have an awesome guest for you, and that is Paul Dana of Plastic Games, the creative mind behind the game Bitshifter, which is available on Steam. It's an early access game with a really fascinating history that goes way, way back, probably further than you realize. So we're going to talk about that, get some questions answered, hear a little bit about Paul and his thoughts on different topics, and it's just great. I won't waste a lot of time. We'll get straight to that. If you want to support the show in the meantime, we still have those Amazon banners at the top and right side of the homepage at CodeWritePlay.com. If you want to start your next trip to Amazon there, that's a free way for you to support the show, and we appreciate it, and it helps so much. So with that in mind, let's go straight to our chat with John and Paul. I will hit the button.
Hit the button, SpongeBob. I'm gonna hit the button.
Don't hit it, Patrick!
Well, that's as good a start as any. Hi, John. How's it going?
I'm doing well, Todd. How are you this evening?
I'm okay, and that voice that's not John is John's friend Paul Dana of Plastic Games. How are you doing, buddy?
I'm doing pretty good.
Buddy's a little presumptuous. I met you about 3 minutes ago.
Yeah, how you doing there, friend, brother?
A little forward on my part.
Yeah,
but
brother. Your fellow traveler.
Right. You guys have been playing Overwatch for what, 5 hours?
More
A
like
year
50.
and a bit.
Yeah. Way more, yes.
I was
yes.
Right, I was getting ready to leave the house, and John sends me like, we good for tonight? Yeah, we're good for tonight. Looking forward to it. Great. Cool, we're going to go play Overwatch. And I'm like, okay. And I come back, and I'm getting ready. Like, you guys ready soon? Like, yeah, we'll get off Overwatch when you're ready.
It was awesome. We were. That's not all I did today, but I can see from your perspective how that looks.
Yeah, I had to share my point of view. So I guess how we'll start is it came up that we're sort of all friends with John here, but we don't know those origin stories. So let's talk about that. John and Paul, how did you guys sort of get hooked up through the magic of Overwatch?
Well, it's your friend Rob, right?
Yep.
Wicked is kind of a hub, you know. He's a people person.
It's a uniter.
He
He
did,
is.
and he just kind of brought us all together. What he was doing is just adding people that would actually play healers. It's really what it was. That's really what it was.
And then it's true.
Yep. And then from there, we just kind of became friends. There's a whole bunch of us. I ended up, because of that Kawa guy, I ended up one day, actually several times now, in a lobby full of people that are speaking Mandarin Chinese at rapid fire, and it's pretty wild. I kind of like how that all works out.
Yeah, he's sometimes
all
our
in the
translator
music.
too, which is kind of fun.
Yeah.
He'll be like that guy. That guy's name means I help my stupid team through love. You know what I mean? Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
I think video games are the new good old boys network. So, you know,
Oh, maybe.
good to see that there's a more penetration of females into that space, you know, than there was when it was like guys playing racquetball, you know, and all that kind of stuff. But
Interesting choice of words.
hey, I'm gonna penetrate.
Now he's getting it. He's picking up what he's laying down.
We're going to earn that explicit tag tonight, I got a feeling.
Do you have an explicit tag? Awesome.
I actually do. And, it wasn't because of anything specific that we do or have done. It was just because, like, I thought, I'd like to have the option.
Yes.
You want me to be explicit?
I mean, don't strive for it.
I'm just channeling my favorite TV show, Arrested Development.
Oh, nice.
Oh, man.
I am a big fan of that, too.
That is a good show.
You mentioned the sort of diverse group that you sort of connect with during Overwatch. That made me think of, I recently explained the game to somebody, one of the rare people who hadn't played it, and I said, imagine instead of like the normal 13-year-old boy playing Call of Duty and calling your mom a whore and all that stuff, imagine like people from every country, of all types, of all colors, religions, creeds, coming together and being complete assholes to each other.
Yes.
And then you have Overwatch.
Like I played with an Arab guy the other day that was so furious that we wouldn't
So
go into
true.
voice channel, and he was in there, and it sounded like the mic was taped to the roof of his mouth. He was just like, "Ripper on back." Mute.
I know.
Furious and was typing angry messages to us in team chat. It was humorous.
It actually sounded like Roadhog.
You could use that as kind of like dipstick. The oil dipstick of the human race at the current time to say, let's see how they're doing. Let's just stick the stick in, pull it out. And because it really is right. Like the game is about making people cooperate, and that makes people dicks.
Right. It's simultaneous. It brings out their best and their worst at the same time.
Yes.
Doesn't it? So you guys know each other in real life and since high school and stuff. So how did you guys?
It was actually well before high school, because I think I recall my mom and John's mom sort of connecting through church when we were, I don't know, were we like more like 9 or 10, something like that, John?
I think so.
So definitely formative years, and our parents didn't know any better, so they left us alone and let us hang out and just do all sorts of crazy stuff.
Didn't know any better.
Yep.
And it was mostly video games. Yeah.
Absolutely.
They didn't realize the alchemy that this would. Well, see, it's you guys are both like lucky and unlucky, in my opinion, because like there just wasn't video games when I was 10 at all. Like they just didn't even exist. There wasn't even fucking Pong at that point, so it wasn't on the horizon. But also, we played with fire, so it would have been helpful, right?
It's true.
I mean, like, everyone wants to see shit blow up, and so video games helps you get there, don't they?
Yeah, sort of scratches that itch without you actually having to go out into the backyard sometimes. That's true.
It was kind of like the new Seinfeld stand-up special on Netflix. It's hilarious if you haven't checked it out. And one of the scenes he's talking about growing up in the 60s, and he's like, yeah, they just gave us sugar for breakfast and sugar for lunch and sugar for dinner. And he's like, and then nothing had seatbelts. There was no seatbelts on cars or cars. So he goes, we were just flying through the air filled with sugar. Because that was the 60s.
I have watched that. That's very funny.
Amazing.
It's
amazing.
It's a good special, and the most striking scene in that whole thing is when they lay out all of his notes that he wrote as a stand-up throughout all those decades, and the camera starts right next to him. And he's just surrounded by piles of paper on the ground, and it zooms out and it goes like way down the street, like one end to the other, just all these pieces of paper. I thought that was fascinating.
It really was. It makes me feel useless as a creative person because he has millions of notes. And I don't have even half of that.
Yeah.
I got nothing, man.
Right?
I am a big note writer. I've got graph paper notebooks full of stuff I really don't look at very often, but I mean, it's there. The act of writing helps me quite a bit. So.
Okay. Yeah, and I know people who have like what does your diary say around then? Like,
yeah.
Let me check my competitive Overwatch rating. That'll say more about my state.
Let me consult my memoirs. Yeah.
Now you can look at Time Hop on Facebook or whatever the hell,
Right?
Yes, that works. That's cool.
Time Hop. Oh, jeez.
It's the new diary, So I guess we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about anything on point tonight. But
right?
What are you fucking talking? First of all, I will get deep at the drop of a hat.
Oh yeah,
Second
I have
all,
a feeling coming up pretty
know
soon.
that although I do computer programming, I've done that for a living. Lately, I've tried to be a game developer, so we can talk about that. I'm not amazingly interested in those topics. Probably because I work so much in them. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just one of those guys where I do have a topic and I do have a thing, but it's the popular science books that I read that just seriously fire me up.
Yeah, I could see that. You two are the only guys I know that have published games, and so I thought that was awesome, and that's definitely why I wanted to see how this conversation.
Yeah. So Todd? So tell me what the deal is with you. So where did you? I mean, I'll tell you about Plastic Games and Paul Dana and stuff in a bit. But I didn't realize that he had a friend who did publish a game and everything. He just said, podcast, right? And I said, okay.
Sure. Yeah.
I have zero context. I'm an avid listener as of 5 minutes ago.
Well, I'll take that. That puts you way at the top of our listenership. But
hey,
so the high level overview with me is basically that I am from John's area. We live in the Midwest, and obviously I've been a fan of video games since a very young age. But growing up here and going to school here, I came to a point where I realized, there's nowhere to work in video games here. So I didn't feel like I'd be a good candidate to sort of relocate and try to fend for myself in, LA or even Chicago. Probably might not have gone well. So,
Okay.
so what I did was I started a
You're
career.
a country boy. Thank God I'm a country boy.
Yes.
I'm like, I got John Denver now going through my mind, but you're fine.
But by comparison to any person in the industry, yeah, I may as well live in the forest or whatever. But so what I did was I started a career in like QA at a back office billing software provider, just normal sort of mundane professional software development stuff. And 10 years go by, and I'm still still nurturing that software career. And then my wife and I, our first child comes along, and she's a physician, and we sort of talked about like it'd be nice to have one of us taking care of the kid at home. She's like, I can't do it, and I'm like, yeah, you can't really see patients at the house. But we figured, I could sort of follow that dream and take the flying leap and go indie. It wouldn't be super profitable right away, but that's the route we went. And I found out as my son started to grow and I wanted to help him learn different things, like I found sort of a passion I didn't know about for sort of educational games and interactive software that could help him learn things like that. So my first game ended up being something I made for him as a prototype to teach him letters and numbers. And when he learned his letters and numbers at 16 months or something like that, I would go, okay, now we got something here. So I took
awesome.
I know. I took about 7 or 8 months to sort of polish that as much as I knew how as a person without a published game, and put it out for iOS, Android. Went and talked to some classrooms about it, visited a couple of schools, and I've given a couple of talks about the process. And now I sort of got started on Upwork, just doing random bits and pieces because we're also building a house right now. There's a lot going on.
What is Upwork?
Upwork is basically a freelancer site where you go. I can do the following.
Cool. Okay.
Right. I have these expertise areas, and people will come to you and go, "Hey, could you do this?" I started doing stuff like editing videos on YouTube and writing blog articles for a guy, and then lo and behold, some people come out of the woodwork and go,
skills, man. You're leveling up.
I know, yeah. Bing! People came to me and they're like, you do these couple of things with game development, right? Yeah, absolutely. Would you consider doing some game development for us? And immediately I picked up 2 game development clients through this site. So now I've sort of got 2 sort of big game projects going on, and I'm sort of taking a run at it through the indie studio. And here we are.
Nice. That's pretty sweet.
Yeah. So with that in mind, give anybody who's not familiar with you already through following Plastic Games or following BitShifter, your big game that we'll talk about, give us the introductory version.
Yeah, so should I start at the beginning or sort of go backwards from where I am? It's hard to say. Maybe I'll start at the beginning. I'm 53, so I was born in 1965, but I wasn't flying through the air. But I was 10 in 1975, right? So I can tell you what the 70s looked like as a kid, and it wasn't much different. We were given bikes and said go. We were in cars with no seatbelts.
Right.
We were still given sugar all the time.
Yes.
My family was a little bit different. I was a little bit. We didn't have the phrase on the spectrum.
Right.
But I was kind of that weird kid, right? There wasn't video games, and that's probably amazing. But the first time that I saw a computer, it couldn't have bored me more to shit, right? So I went to a science camp. I was really lucky, and I got to pick stuff, and they took us there, and they were like, this is astronomy, and this is chemistry, it's electronics, and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And computers, and I was like very interested, And they're like, here it is. And it's like a teletype. And the computer, that's a couple of towns away in Avon. You type stuff here and stuff comes back. And I'm like, it's like a bad typewriter? That's a computer? Because I'm thinking tanks of lights, the ominous voice, right? Right? Like, kid, I have no idea. No idea. So my first introduction was very bad. But then after that, as a kid, my brother...
Your mic is cutting.
Oh, sorry, I'm wandering right in the room. Like I'm wandering around, like my mic is going with me.
Oh, there you go. Okay,
I've changed mic. I'm sorry. And so there was a computer class offered merely because anyone who was in the advanced class could do it, and they didn't have enough people taking it. So even though my sister was a senior and I was a freshman, We would never have anything to do with each other. We were actually in the same class. So I was obviously, determined to do really well at this. And, I was good at math. And so it actually was fairly easy. The ideas were pretty simple to me and everything. And so I did it, and I didn't really connect it to anything until the next year after that, I went to a different high school. The reason why is unimportant, but they had an Apple II, and I saw video games on this Apple II, and that's when the two things came together for me.
That was my first computer, yeah.
Well, I just saw, I'm like, oh, like I could sort of see how you do it, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because I knew this little bit of BASIC that I was taught there, and they had these machines, they had BASIC. You know what I mean? There was a draw line command. I started to play around. So it was just the beginning of having an amp and plugging in and just wanging and making notes. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, see, Todd, interesting, not to sidetrack your story for a minute, Paul, but I didn't know, Todd, that your first computer was the Apple II.
It actually was. My dad had a Commodore 64 that I wasn't allowed to touch. So a family member saw like an Apple II at a yard sale or something. It was not in the prime time for Apple IIs, but it did end up being my first machine I was actually able to use. And punching in code from those books you would buy with games in them, that's what gave me an interest in programming.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is funny because I went completely the other direction. I could never, ever imagine like typing all that in. I was like, oh my God, you've got to be kidding me. I would surely make a mistake and it would just be hell. Like, oh my God, you have to go over the whole thing and everything. So people who had a copy, who typed it in, you know what I mean? You could copy the disc or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Except for it wasn't a disc. It was a tape. It was god awful, right?
Right.
I mean, and you would lose stuff. It was just the most terrible thing. Like media sucked. Like I was always distrustful. When floppy disk did come along, I was like, this is the most amazing thing in the world. But anyway, the point is from there, even though like video games completely entranced me, they were also, here's the key point, a social thing that I did with. So when Space Invaders and Asteroids came, I really wasn't that interested in Space Invaders because it was very solitary. But Asteroids, it was like a teleport button, remember? Asteroids Deluxe, they had like a shield. But that teleport button was like, you just could never get your finger on it fast enough when you really needed it. And so we actually played that game 2 people,
Oh, I see.
2-player, and you would be his teleport guy. And it was important because you could sometimes die. So teleporting when you shouldn't be was like bad move, wasted quarter. It was very, very weighty material here.
Oh, yeah, that's a lot of money back then, dude.
Yeah.
Playing around with that.
Yeah, seriously, And so, but I mean, the thing though is that when it came to like computers and all this stuff, they got better. There's all these amazing games, and we can talk about all that stuff like early days because I was there for the whole thing computer one, right? But I was missing from the whole console thing. Like I left consoles in television and I picked it back up at GameCube. Kid guy, like I was.
Oh man, imagine that transition.
Like everything that ever happened on consoles, right? Like I missed it all. So everybody who's
you missed the golden years.
I missed everything. But here's the thing. Here's the point I'm trying to make is programming computers was entrancing to me because it combined so much of what I liked and eliminated so much of what I didn't like about all the kind of crafty, projecty things that I.
Nice.
And it did use the math that I knew, but I come to understand very quickly what people meant, where there isn't a whole lot of math in programming. That's not really what it's about.
I agree.
That it's craft. It's more about like a craft. So if you're the kind of person that does anything from knitting to whatever, right? As like you can sit down in an afternoon, you love the idea of sitting and filling out a bunch of squares if it's going to be some cool art when you're done. If that's you, you can put in or a piano player, you'll put 57 hours in so that somebody can listen to you play for a minute and a half.
Yeah.
But it's your recital. If that's you, then programming is also for you because there's all this effort behind the scenes and then people get to see this cool result. So it's like putting on a play. It's like making music. It taps into all the same crafty shit, but especially that you're okay with being by yourself. You're okay thinking things through that get you going. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
You could really like get into that Nature 2 thing. And so for me, I was always more interested really in programming the computers than playing games until people came in. And then it became a social thing and we would do it.
Huh.
So and then I got sucked into having kids and blah, blah, blah. So,
yeah.
and it was, for us, it was like, okay, we had our first kid. We didn't know what we were doing. We went to have our second kid and we had twins.
Oh boy.
That were born almost 3 months prematurely.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it was like, oh, I don't even remember. I honestly have a missing year. I have no idea.
Yeah.
Wow.
I got so little sleep, it's gone. It's completely. I have no fucking.
Now, is that
It's
Zora?
him. Yeah.
Is that Zora?
Yeah, and his twin
I didn't
sister
realize-
Sarah. Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah. And here's the thing you don't know about Zord is he's like officially on the spectrum. He's actually high functioning.
Is he high functioning autistic?
Yeah, except for no, because they changed the DSM. So between the latest, which is what 5, and then the previous one 4, they downgraded his particular category, which was always like an otherwise category. Like they lump everybody they couldn't quite characterize into this category.
Mm-hmm.
They took it out and said it's not really autism anymore. We're going to call it something else. So in a way, no. So it makes sense, right? Because he's very high function, right?
It's in here, and then I'll share something with you because we kind of have a not necessarily a connection there, but in a way, yeah. My wife has been formally trained to work with children when they're very young that are on the spectrum and different things like that. She was an occupational therapist assistant, and it is that her skill set there has very, very much aided us with our daughter in the early years here. She has just been a fantastic mother because she understands how the mind of so many different types of children develop. That it's inspiring to see. But so I know talking about kids on the spectrum and hearing stories and you know, being kind of involved in their world somewhat, because she would tell me what her workday was like. I understand. I feel for people in that situation. It's a very unique, interesting, challenging experience.
See, I've gotten over my very unique thing that used to drive me crazy. Something is very unique, like very pregnant. Like unique is one of a kind. You can't be very unique. People just mean very original, you know?
Yes. Yeah.
They don't mean it literally. So I was been told to get over that one. So I'm getting over it. But see, this is me, right? But yeah. So Tim, it has what's called what's it called? He's like, you know, not otherwise specified category of it too. So which means like they're not even really.
Are you wait a minute. Are you sure that they're just not trying to clinically diagnose him with being an asshole?
Yeah, that's right. He's just a dick face. That's what they said, you know? That's what it is.
Because I've heard him talk some trash on people. And I'm like, man, this is inspired. This is next level shit talking we got.
I know. And his twin sister has dyslexia.
Okay.
And what is essentially neurologist said, look, it's complicated because we just don't know. In your daughter's case, like a lot of people, we just don't really fucking know. Why don't you just imagine that she has really, really slight cerebral palsy? So she's going to take a long time to put on like muscle mass on her legs, and she's always going to be somewhat uncoordinated, you know, whatever. And so, like, you know, at one point they thought we might have been abusing because she hit her head so much and it would fall into her eyes. And she'd have these big bruising eyes. You ever seen that? Like a lump that falls from your head in your eye. Have you ever seen that? It'll happen.
Yeah, I think I have seen that. Yeah, it's rough.
Yeah, it falls and they get like a huge fucking knot on their head. First thing, it just swells up and it's awful, and you put ice on it or whatever. Then it's like a bump there for a while, and you're like, fuck, and it starts to get like kind of purpley or whatever, and then it literally goes whoop and slides into your eye, and it looks like you've been knocked in the eye.
Man.
Man.
Oh, parenting.
It's awesome. Dude, it's so fucking funny. We had one person who were trying to figure out what was up with our kids, you know, so my wife was huge advocate and trying to figure out what the fuck was going on, because obviously when your kids are young, you don't know what the hell's going on, right?
Yeah.
There's no manual. There's a button that comes up, and you know you get an alert on your phone because, oh, by the way, your kid, you know.
Yeah.
Wow. Now, so through all of this part of your life, where's Plastic Games? Is this going on at the same time as?
Afterwards, like it's
part of your life.
Being old is I've been able to go forward. So basically, there was, you know, the part of my life where I was a computer programmer, and the type of computer programming that I did is interactive 3D graphic. So it's like next door to making. It's almost all the same sets of stuff, but without any of the actual, you know, what makes it really hard. The difference between, you know, you know what I'm saying? Like a difference between like a security camera and a movie.
Yeah.
The hard part is the entertainment and all that. So that's what makes making games really fucking hard. But at its core, it's just software. And the type of software it is it's interactive 3D software. You know, and that's the stuff, other than the sound part of it and all that. That's the stuff I did. And so I've, you know, was familiar with the idea of engines and different stuff. That was a concept that was sort of growing in the industry and stuff, apart from what, you know, people in games did. It's almost like the people who do game development are kind of like, you know, the race car, you know, right? They make the high performance parts, you know.
I see. I see. It's interesting. Both of you guys independently. Well, you just shared now, so not independently, but on this podcast. And then Todd independently, that's the correct way to say that, have mentioned that the art aspect of the game ends up being the hardest. And I mean, it kind of seems, from me as a non-game developer, just a consumer, it seems like, oh, well, that was really an obvious thing. But at the same time, it's
but it's not art, though. It's entertainment. The word I use very carefully chosen, because the art, like the programming, is just one technical aspect. And if you're good at art, then making game art is not hard. If you're good at software development, then the software development part of games isn't necessarily particularly hard, right? It is, because there's performance involved. And so it is kind of a high-end, harder part of it. But what makes it hard is because it's entertainment, and it's not your 10-year-old who goes, yeah, this is not fun at all, it's boring, can destroy your years of work, right? And their opinion is valid.
Yeah.
It's whether it's fun or not, that's so hard.
The way I've explained it to people is games are sort of a marriage of many different art forms, and each one of those art forms has sort of an established playbook. An artist breaks down what he wants to create, or what she wants to create, into this series of steps. We do the following. The music, I've been trained in music theory, so I know how to compose something. We can draw the pixel stuff, program the code, and when it comes together, maybe you've done everything 100% and you still haven't captured the experience that it needs to be on the user's end. And if you haven't done that, you haven't done shit.
Right. So, and I always want, again, I was interested in games all the time. And here I was, decades into doing interactive computer graphics, since before anybody had any fucking idea what that was. Like, I was there through the beginning of everything. Like, before Apple, right? Before Macintosh, right? All that stuff. Like, I was doing it. I was an amateur. I didn't know what the fuck, right?
Yeah.
But I was in the game at that time. And so I sort of saw all this stuff happen. It's kind of crazy. But I always, in the back of my mind, I always thought, that fucking video game was what sparked my goddamn imagination to begin with. Always been interested in it. Always wondered. And so, what happened in my case specifically was, we had the kids finally, and then we had the twins that were born prematurely, and I had the lost years, and then those kids became a couple years, 2, 3, and I started to be able to do things again. I was like, right, I could actually do stuff. And so then I kind of came back to it again, and I started playing video games more than I was before.
You're drifting again.
Oh, that's right. I got to pick up the mic to go.
You just got a new rig, and he's not used to it.
I know.
I gotcha.
The mic is right. I could just walk around. You can hear me just fine. This company called Garage Games formed, and the company was basically the person who was the head owner, runner of Dynamics, and they had just made Tribes 2, and they absolutely fucking hated their publisher and the whole industry and everything. And they said, fuck you all, we're getting out, we're going to take our engine and we're going to go do something with it. And they actually had a hell of a time extracting all that Tribes 2 stuff from the engine, because their agreement said that they owned the engine, but the people who owned Tribes, whoever the fuck they were, I forget, just gave him shit about which part of it was actually funded by them and all that kind of stuff.
I think there's a good post-mortem out about that as well.
Yeah, there's some great stuff about that. And so the guy who did this, Jeff Tunnell, is an amazing dude. And, he formed this company with some of the programmers, Mark Fraunmeyer, and just a bunch of great guys that I ended up meeting and stuff, that made this company. And what they decided to do was crazy at the time. They're like, why don't we just sell the engine as like a retail product rather than trying to make the next greatest game that we don't have the money to make and everything.
Yeah.
And people, they were just laughed at. People like, that's nuts. Like maybe you can get some dinguses to buy it, but I mean, like the average person can't do anything with the game engine. They're not gonna. How much are you gonna try to? They'll spend $10-15, but they're not gonna shell out. Like you'd have to charge like $100 or something.
Yeah.
So they charge $150 at first. And later on, they changed it to $100, and they paved the way. Unity, all that stuff. Everybody who talks indie, who talks about all that stuff, all the talk about indie, everything started with those guys. They really did it. They really launched it. They weren't the first. There was other people who were indie, but they were the first person to put their, sort of money where their mouth is and say, let's sell a game engine as just a consumer level product and see what to do. They also made a game with it called Marble Blast. Is that what it was? A marble rolling game that they did as well, and some other things for the game. But the key thing that they really did was sort of start that community of people to say, go indie, make your own game, and here's this thing.
It wasn't Marble Madness, surely.
No, Marble Madness was like, that was the arcade game, right?
Yeah, I think it later hit the NES, yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, and yet there was also the Super Monkey Ball. So that this was a lot closer to Super Monkey Ball in terms of the game, the Marble Madness.
Man, I loved that game.
Yeah.
Monkey Ball.
Yes,
it's a good one.
Yeah, Monkey Ball was great. It's very similar, but a little bit different. So I mean, we'd be splicing hairs as game designers to talk about what's different about it. But I mean, they were. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. And so I actually was one of the several people that called them up and said, can I give you the money now? And they were like, we're not taking pre-orders. And so, they eventually shipped the stupid thing, and the rest is almost history. Like Unity ended up stealing a bunch of people away from them, and essentially copied at first every single thing that Crash Games was trying to do. Unity simply just copied it, the way things looked, how the editor worked, everything. They even stole engineers and marketing people away from the company specifically.
What did they call the engine?
The Torque game engine.
That's what I thought it was. I've looked at that a little bit.
They wanted to call it, I think, like the V8 or V1200 or something like. That's like a game. It's an actual car engine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Something like that. And there was already copyright on it. So they went with Torque.
That's right. I looked at it much more recently, obviously, like way further down the road.
And I was just one of the few people that, since I had been doing 3D game development, 3D interactive graphic development, right? I was in a position to be able to just dump a bunch of source code and stuff and say, go figure it out. For me, it was like, oh my God, you have just taken me all the way to the promised land. Like, all I got to do is hack my way through bushes with a fucking machete there. You know what I mean? It's everyone else was complaining that it didn't do this or that. It was terrible. But again, it was, people did want something like what Unity is now. Unity is, 1,000 times better than what the Torque game engine was.
Sure.
In terms of on the ground experience for your average person. But anyway, that's where it began with me. And so I ended up making this game called BitShifter early on there. And then, it didn't really go anywhere, and we put it down. I did other things. And did a little contract work or whatever, and we started working on BitShifter again, and then we ended up doing work for Disney, and I can talk about that. We put games at Epcot, so we put the game down again. We started working on a zombie game, we put that down. We started working on a kids game, we put that down. Then we had another freaking intern who came into the company, and we're like, well, maybe we'll have been working on the zombie game. I don't know. Whatever. And when we showed him BitShifter, he's like, why would you have me work on anything but this? This is amazing, And we're like, oh God, we're so done with that game, dude.
And we've had a lot of discussions about that.
Oh, God, and we picked it up for the third, fourth time, whatever it was. And now I'm at the point where I'm ready to put it down again. And so, I'll talk about that game, anything you want to hear about it or whatever, but I'm in an interesting position to be just like, having sort of come at all this from the other direction, not like building up from sort of, nothing and trying to learn how to program by making, but the opposite, doing everything but making games for a long time, and then finally getting to do it kind of as a hobby. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so now, with this particular game, it's just soured me to the whole process. And so, I installed Unity, went through a bunch of tutorials, sort of learned how to use it, ended up making some games from my youth that I always wondered what it would be like to make them. Some 2D games is fucking fun and everything. But still, I just don't know. I wonder if I'm at the point of my life where I'm sort of done with it. It's hard to say. But
interesting.
Before we talk about that, I just want to say really weird specifics that have come up in this conversation. You, J-Rex, talking about, no, seriously, about, and especially Todd, you talking about games to teach kids stuff, because that connects to that topic that I'm passionate,
Yeah.
The science, and it's a lot that I've learned and what I have opinions about kids and education and all kinds of just very strong opinions, and I could talk for just hours on that topic. And I have very strong opinions about technology, where it's appropriate, where it's inappropriate, and also about how we have not really begun as a human species. Like, we're just starting, and we think we're so advanced and so far along, and we're like Stone Age. Hilarious. It's obvious to me that we have come nowhere near tapping the potential of what humans can do. And part of how we're going to figure it out, to me, it's obviously is like kids and games and stuff. So we can talk. Oh my God, and then learning difficulties and everything just sort of tie into it, because it ties into the natural variant that exists, and that we're tapping. We're becoming more different.
Yeah.
More.
I'm with you, and I never, when I was 17 or 18 and going like, I'm gonna learn how to make games and make stupid stuff for my friends, and we'll play stuff that's like Doom, and you never think ahead to that point where it's like, I want to impart some knowledge, to my offspring, stuff like this. But the funny thing is, when you get to that point, and so many, I know so many people have come to that point, or never come to that point, and never even thought about this. But once you do, you start to think about how this stuff actually affects the brain, how it affects learning, how you can stimulate learning, and it's like you're thinking about it on a completely new plane. And not only that, but the connections I've made, like you said, like you bring this stuff up and certain people immediately light up like a Christmas tree and go, yes, I have thoughts about this. This is important to me too. I've connected better with people over this part of it than any of the stuff I've done previously. I'm part of a local co-op for game development here in the Midwest. They have like as a group, they have zero interest. I was like, guys, I just shipped a game. I learned a ton. I know tons of great marketing stuff now for this. Someone will find this helpful. They're like, yeah, we don't have room for you at their big conference for the year. Like, yeah, we can't find a space for you. Nobody wants to hear that.
Well, I think you connect with people because this shit's important.
Yeah.
Like, globally, future of humanity important, massively important. Not like, my God, I'm a conspiracy theorist, but just, I could lay it out for you. But if you were sort of to hop in my head and sort of see the future the way I see it, you'd be like, oh, of course,
Yeah, and it's such I feel like such a higher purpose to begin with. It's sort of like, even if the only impact was you're going to help, right now I'm working with an elementary school teacher to make her entire reading curriculum for the year completely interactive using Unity. And I'm going to make I don't think she'd mind me saying like a few $100, because it's a teacher's salary. We're both like, how can we just get this done the easiest way? And great high fives for everyone, and we'll help the kids. Like, that's good enough. This is serving a purpose, and it's not going to be first person blow someone's brains out, fun, awesome stuff. But at the same time, it's like, now I feel like, great, I did something great for the second half of the year. What's next?
Yes. Yep. I like to go about it from various different thought experiments. Like, imagine that there was some oracle, okay, just some machine that would just sit there,
okay,
and it allowed an average person, when it comes to understanding of technology, right? Somebody who otherwise doesn't know dick, basically, about all this kind of stuff, or software development and all that. But they have an expertise. Maybe they're a pulmonary specialist. Maybe they're a plumber. You know what I mean? Maybe they do landscaping. It doesn't really matter, right? Atmospheric specialist. They could be a fucking hooker. Seriously, it doesn't matter, okay? But imagine this Miracle Box would let them make a fully realized production of a 20-minute show that could explain one little piece of what they know really well, so that if somebody wanted to learn it, it would be super interesting and fun and stick in their head. Can you picture that?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Imagine how much that just by itself would change the world if it was easy for everybody to make their own little documentary.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Can you picture that? Like,
That'd be neat.
That would be something that would leverage what we already know to know even more, to take what we do and amplify. It's like an amplifier of human, if such a thing were.
Absolutely.
So now step away from it and say, well, that's not realistic. We don't have magic machines. But instead of no effort, right, someone else makes this document, right? Imagine that you had to spend as much effort as it took to get eggs, or maybe as much effort as it took to put a fence in your yard, or go to school, okay, or whatever. At some point, you hit the difficulty level that we're at right the fuck now.
Yeah.
With YouTube and video editing and software development, everything that you have, if you wanted to make an interactive experience to explain how something worked, you are so much closer today than anybody has ever been in history to that magic box. It's a thought experiment, right?
Sure.
How close do you have to get to it before you realize that that's going to change everything, okay? And if you want to sort of have an example to extrapolate from the past, something that's real, into this future that I'm talking about, that it's hard to wrap our head around. I use the example of my mom. She was born in 1940, okay? When she was a young woman, maybe say 20, it was 1960. She was educated and she knew stuff, but she wasn't genius or brilliant or knew that much about, let's say, entertainment or music, or television, or any of that stuff. But she understood, as people of her age, intelligence did, that, well, it's done with a set of machines and people in a room somewhere, and they aim a camera at you and they have lights, okay? Or they put you in this room with padding on the walls, and there's musicians come in and there's this big machine with tape. She could give you some details. She could tell you what it would do, right?
Mm-hmm.
In the case of, say, making a movie, or in the case of, say, making an album, music, or whatever it is, okay? To dial forward to our present day and to explain to somebody that Now that's done with a machine that would fit in your pocket effectively, and that all that expensive equipment essentially has been replaced with a few pieces of specialized equipment, and then this computer thing, that can do everything else for you, would be hard to swallow. It would be hard to believe that all that had been reduced to something that is at the level that an average person could afford it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And that it would work. And you could tell the exact same story when it came to video production or music. You could take your pick, and it would be astonishing to say to somebody that this machine existed, but to then step back and say, guess what? It's the same fucking machine that allowed music to be made, that allows books to be printed, that allows television productions, that allows surveying, that allows scientific investigation of, that allows lawyers, and that allows doctors, and that allows accountants, and allows everyone. The efficiency that we work at now is fucking insane compared to just 100 years ago. Yeah. And the machine that does it is the same machine, and it didn't exist 100 years ago. So it's the amplification of one idea is so profound that, we should take very serious thought experiments, in my opinion, as to what's coming.
It's the same machine that allows for the smooth controller flight response in BitShifter.
It is. It's that magic machine, isn't it?
It is. It's that magic machine. And
the game BitShifter is like a self-referential thing. It happens inside a computer.
Yeah.
And you know how it took you a minute to figure out? We did that on purpose. We want this game to make you smart.
It did. It took when I jumped into it, even though awesome. Like the tutorial was going, like, what I kind of liked was, like, I had missed that feeling where there wasn't like a giant flashing arrow in a big blue box on the ground with a bunch of things pointing at it to be like, hey, go over here. Like, it was like what games used to be. It would kind of just put you in and be like, you're supposed to get these things and do something with them.
We took an incredibly minimalistic approach, and so we had to redo things over and over again because we wanted to have that feeling that you're doing it from step one, and that you're figuring it out. You're not being told at all. And that was so hard to do. I wish we didn't do that. The big blue squares are better. We should have done that.
Well, you know what? For a certain audience, my favorite reviewer reviewed your game and ended up liking it, which is like blew my mind because I watch Mac on Worth a Buy constantly. He's like my number one game reviewer. And when I saw BitShifter, I was like, Paul's game? And then I watched and I was like, oh, please be gentle. and then he was, and then so I finally got around to playing it, and I was like, you know what? I see what he was talking about. I liked that. I liked it. It gave me this sense of nostalgia. And the old games I used to just dump into them, never read the manuals. I was like 9, and I just got done installing it off of like 78 floppy disks, and here I'm going. I spent the whole afternoon sticking disk 3 of 78, and then it would load like 14 kilobytes, and it'd be like, please insert disk 4 of 78. And you'd be like, okay. And then you get in there, and I'd have no idea what to do. And
that's right. That's right. You'd be fucking baffled. Do you remember Sim Ant? Do you ever play that game?
Yeah, dude, I love that game. That was the first rage quit I ever had. I got so mad I turned the computer off because of that game. In the middle of the game.
It's awesome. It was terrible. That was one of the first games that I totally did not understand.
No.
The scope
what the hell was going on.
Anything at all about it, and that I had to come back to it after I saw someone playing it. I was like, you can do what with this game?
Yeah,
because I didn't even you start from nothing, and so I couldn't.
You can go in the house, Paul.
I know. So it's exactly what I'm talking about. I saw him like do all this. I was like, what the?
Yeah. Get in the house on that game. But yeah, your game gave me
that was the first Minecraft in a way. I mean, or whatever.
That's an excellent point.
No, it's the first Dwarf Fortress. That's what it was.
Yeah.
First Dwarf Fortress. Man, dude.
But I commended you for that. The very first things I noticed about the game was that it just put you right in there, and it was like, hey, figure it out. And once you got a hang of it, you're like, hey, this is kind of neat. And then the flight. The feeling, the physics on your spacecraft flying felt good. Like, I was very impressed. I've played some indie games where, the art was cool, but it lacked in a certain area. And your game has that too. I mean, I'm not just going to blow some smoke up your ass because you're my buddy. But at the same time, like, the thing I really like was that I was like, thank you that it feels good to play the game. because I've played so many games that just don't feel good to play. Like you like get in there and it just moves like a husk of shit.
We should have made that. We should have made that, and then made some kind of game where it just AI comes at you and you fly across landscapes and you shoot it. And that should have been we tried to innovate on 1,000 ways, and we just should have just taken something super fucking simple like the ship and made some fun game out of that. And been like done.
Well, you nailed it on the you nailed it on the head.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you, Todd, but you nailed it on the head, Paul. When you're saying that, I can kind of tell, and it's the same thing with my band's record. It's the same thing I've been charged with by reviewers. It's to some people they loved this aspect, some people they didn't, which is it just what were you trying to do in some of these parts? It's like you were overstretching, trying to be something you weren't.
Great song. Yeah, just chop this shit out and give me that intro, and I'm done.
Right.
Beat, chorus, like rinse. What are you doing with all this? Yeah,
right. And I did get that similar sense when I was in there, but at the same time, man, I really think maybe you're onto something. Take that way you program that flight control and the way that guy works, and put him into a thing where it's PvE, PvP, PvP, VEVP. I don't know.
I'm with you.
Here's what struck me about this, because when I knew we were going to be talking about this, I went back and looked at some other conversations Paul had with people and videos of the game being discussed. And one theme that keeps coming up is everybody has trouble when they come to describing like a genre or categorizing this experience. And I think people were going about it the wrong way, because they wanted to go like, well, this is action strategy / sim / adventure. And what I'd rather do is explain it to somebody as like, take Rogue Squadron and put it in the 90s animated series Reboot.
Yeah.
And
totally Reboot, totally.
And for that reason, like I would,
we've been so inspired by Reboot.
And I was too. And so for that reason, I would hate to see you go away from that direction. I'd sort of like to see this just sort of crawl like straight up its own ass and just really embrace that,
It would be great. It would be totally great. And I can talk a little bit about like sort of what the game is or where it came from. I mean, whatever you want to talk about. I did a bunch of interviews on the game and stuff, so I've got my pattern down to, you want the 5-minute version, you know what I mean?
We probably will have to, because we like to try to keep this around an hour, and I think we're about approaching that, aren't we?
Yeah, we probably are.
Right, and I'm going to edit a couple things out because we got some bad audio in here. But so what I want to do quickly is, for one thing, like, I definitely want to hear sort of anything you want to add about like the state of the game, and I know. I know that you have sort of probably conflicting emotions about where it's at, but like, I know the early access thing could not have been maybe the experience you were expecting, and I'm wondering if
I thought you were gonna say more painful or something like that.
Right? No, and I mean, like, every review on Steam is like super positive. Like, I couldn't find a negative word about it on Steam. But it does seem like the early access people, like, there's a certain crowd that gravitates towards this, and I think at the same time they would normally get antsy about any other game, they got antsy about this without really taking into account, like, this is a labor of love that's gone on many, many years.
Yeah. So that's true. That's true.
So do you think that's maybe hurting you? Like, they don't really know the sort of, I don't know,
It's hurting me is there was a window I was told by people, remember Jeff Chanel and different people who said, hey, this window won't be open forever. You could make indie games. You could make money. Keep it fucking simple, stupid. Do something. Shut up, and I went and fought, did this and that, and the window's long since closed. The guy was really smart, really, insightful, and gave us all everything we needed. He was, I think, a little disappointed after everything was done because there wasn't really a whole lot of talent out there, and the talent out there, people like me who were like all into it and everything, and maybe could actually make a game. We're so naive, so much to making a game. You don't know it, then learning it the hard way is just the best failure over tough stuff.
Yeah.
So anyway, it started. Look, I'll give you the 5-minute version, right? So back on the Atari ST, there was a game called Oids. And it was like the last great arcade game, because video games on computers very much gravitated away from the way video games worked when the idea was to play for a quarter, right?
Mhm.
So instant death and all that stuff isn't really fun. That the health bar was invented for that reason. You know? But this game was like the last great arcade style game, and I wanted to make it in 3D. So I said, "Oh, here's this. I'll just translate and make it in 3D." Go, guess what? You can't just take a 2D game and put it in 3D and have it fun. It just doesn't work, weirdly.
Yeah.
And so when I was talking with somebody about, what should I do with this? He said, kind of off the cuff, why don't you sort of change like the point? Why don't you take what you have and make something that's interesting with it? Like, it's a computer, it's a virus, and it's spreading. You got to fight it, do that. And so I just went off and like stupidly did that, And it was pretty fun. And we got the same, we would like rinse and repeat over and over again, iterating on this stupid idea. Because it was like once people understood what to do, it was fucking great, but they didn't know what to do. And there wasn't enough feedback. So we had to improve things so you knew where the virus was and understood what you're supposed to do and all this kind of stuff, and actually teach it to you. So that tutorial, that first level, we have a joke that we've made level A1 like 27 times because we did. Like over and over and over again. And I can tell you what that is. It's like, and even though, we could have gone for like, you can't possibly get to the next part of the map until you do the right thing. We just absolutely hated how that felt and how it worked. And we just kept shooting for the moon, man. We wanted something more like, like Half-Life 2 or something where it's all seamless, and you're doing a tutorial, but it feels like you're just doing shit. And, we just didn't do it, man. But it turned out to live in a very weird space because there's games that are like strategy games where you make a certain number of decisions per minute, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you don't really have to do anything other than click on stuff. And then you've got action games where you have to make much less decisions per minute. It's up to you to actually aim shit and do stuff. And we sit right in the middle of that space. There is action, but there is also thinking. And so not really strategy so much as tactics, but if you use the word tactics, people think Rainbow Six, whatever.
Yeah.
It's the wrong genre. You get the wrong idea completely.
Yeah.
Because I mean like a pointy-headed person's idea of tactics versus strategy, not what the industry uses.
Yeah.
Yes, because like you've got your real-time combat going on with the little dudes that are popping up and puking stuff at you and shooting everything, and then you're controlling the spread of the virus with the little 8-bit guys, and it is neat. It's kind of like you've got two mini games stacked on top of each other happening simultaneously.
Oh, it's worse, and then we just go crazy with it. It's so bad. It's so bad, dude. It just gets worse. How far did you get? Like, which level did you play to?
I only
A3 or something.
Yep. And then I only made it a couple levels in, and I was like, this is. At first, I was like, what? And then it was like, oh.
Yeah.
It's like, I can really see. I'm like, you know what? Later on, he's really, really gonna start messing with me, I think.
Yeah. It gets.
I can sense that.
It gets so deep. It's so stupid. Like how much we have sort of there and everything. But it goes pretty deep because you fight the virus spreads, but there's a logic to it. That balance that you try to get when you make a level to it, because bits don't die. They can get just like knocked out and they're sitting on the ground smoking. But if you pick them up and throw them back out, they're fine. So you can heal. You are the healer too. You can heal them. That's cool. So if you get a bit maker working, then from there you'll always have more and more bits.
Huh.
But the virus is relentless. It spreads on all fronts. And it moves faster along the paths. So as time goes by, there's more virus. And so that's the logic of it, is you always have more bits, but there's always more virus spreading, right?
It's almost like you have you're almost always fighting a losing battle.
Yes, you are. And it's, there was a lot of trouble with that because...
And that's the sense I kind of got from it.
Yeah, well, there was a fundamental conflict there because that doesn't lead to what's fun in terms of pacing, which goes into the same kind of pacing you have for like a movie or even for music, right? You don't have a song that's just right?
Yeah. Well, I do. But that's kind of one of the reasons.
But even you don't. You have parts that are more white space and less, more dense, more heavy, more vocals. You know what I mean? You do lots of things to mix it up. And it's all what we would call pacing, right? Does that make sense, that word pacing?
Yes.
And so games have pacing issues. Oh, you don't just have level after level, harder. And also, there's a certain pacing curve that's the most satisfying,
Interesting.
And that kind of thing is less like a song and more like an album. Or a place. What songs do you put in what order to get the right? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It happens in miniature song too. It's in a larger agglomeration, play set, or a big piece of glass. I mean, then you have those pieces of TV show or like video game. That's no fun. That what I just told you before because it happens.
You're drifting again.
You have more and more resources, but the enemy gets stronger. But at some point, the tide turns, and then it's just mop up.
Yeah.
That's not really fun. That's not a strong ending, you know?
Mhm.
See what I mean? So we had a lot of issues with how we tried to fuck with that. It was almost like, we had to almost always break our own formula to make the game. So, the big picture story is this. We tried to innovate in 17 dimensions, and we should have just picked the one, man.
You should have just stuck with the ship combat, is what you're thinking? Because I would
anything.
I will tell
We
you
innovated in so many ways. We just didn't do all that. It's so dense, thick, and it's fun without all that. Instead, what we have this incredibly thick, dense, ambitious game that only has so much done.
Yeah.
Finished. And the game engine is out of date and crap. So, like, wow, great, good job, guys. So that's it. So in a nutshell, that's sort of what we did and where I am and how I feel about it. So hopefully that wraps things up tightly. We talk about a lot of shit other than the game, and I'll come back and do more of that. Like I say, that talk of games and education and kids, and it's just the reason that fires people up is because everybody understands it. That's some important shit there.
Yeah, and I'm with you. I think after I wrap up the next project, we should have you back. I'm sure I'll be high on achievement, and we can talk more about like the direction of games and education and games, helping us contribute to society in a positive way. All the stuff that's flowery and sounds nice, but there's some real meat to dig into and to chew on there. So like I said, I'd love to have you back sometime. We sure did talk about all kinds of stuff tonight.
It was awesome.
So do you think you'll sort of turn a corner and pick this back up, or we
haven't even really put it down yet. We're just pausing, like I've done many times before, because I really can't fucking stand it. I get sick to my stomach thinking about it, and I'll sit down and I'll be like, okay, I'm going to force myself to do it, and it's just not the same. I have no problem forcing myself to do work. Like I work out of my house, and I have for a long time, contract work for various people, and I keep a discipline there, and I have no problem forcing myself to work. And I really don't have any interest in it because I know that the day that I start blowing everything off is the day that all of a sudden I'll already be out of a job. It'll be too late. You know what I mean? Either you're ahead by a bit or you're way fucking behind. And so I keep on top of that, right? That's my job. That's like my livelihood. That's different. You know what I mean? It's easy to say, no, this is no fun, but put your big point pants on. You do really have to do this. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like brushing your teeth and other shit you might not like to do. You have to do it anyway. You do it. This other thing was a labor of love, and when it starts to feel like this, and I just like hate it, and I hate myself that I can't finish it, it gets really tough. I just need to get some distance from it. We're gonna do something. I don't know. We haven't even done an announcement yet to tell people. Yeah, we haven't worked on it in a long time. The lead developer is addicted to Overwatch. He's like, treatment. He's in denial. He won't even seek treatment. It's bad. So. We haven't even done that. But
Junkrat.
I don't know if we're just going to try to finish it and ship what we have for cheap and say, look, we had big plans. We never got that far, but it's still a fun game. And here it is for a reasonable price for what you get. Whether we're going to say the same basic thing, but open source it, make it free. Just say, let's recruit other people who are young and stupid and want to make this, maybe remake it in another engine. Like here's the template. Here's an amazing game. You want to make one. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Yeah. And be involved with that because that might fire me up to see other people do this instead of me. That same thing like when you see your kids, and the effect of what you've done. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm just gonna encourage you to continue and consider, either maybe like you said, and the idea of you just saying, hey, let's just polish it up a little bit more and then ship it as is and send it in this price. And maybe that is ultimately what you need to do, because I didn't release my band's first full-length album until the week I was just like, I'm putting it out. Like, I'm not happy with all aspects of it by any means. I don't listen to it. I don't want to hear it again. I'm too critical of my
I don't want to hear it again, dude. There you go. I don't want to play this game one more time.
Right, but at the same time, it's just like I had to just do it, and I think I'd like to encourage you to do the same, maybe, and that way you can move on and do a sequel to it, and then do the cool things you want to do with it, and less is more approach. Like I sometimes talk to Todd, and I imagine myself wanting to develop a game at some point too, maybe even if it's just for fun or morbid curiosity, or I'm a sadist or something. Or
so this is turning. This is awesome. This is turning into like therapy.
Yeah.
Right, and I'm thinking to myself, what I'm noticing is that it has to be fun for the player, like it feels good. That's a big thing to me, man. It's why Brawlhalla has got its fangs in me right now. It's why Overwatch still has its fangs in me. The games just feel good to play. One's 2D and like basic art, one's 3D and incredible, but they still just they feel really good at the basic level. And I think you have that with the flight controls for sure with the controller on BitShifter. And if you just like took that and just
do you use a gamepad ever? Do you like controllers? Because it works on a controller too.
That's what I'm saying. With the controller, it's awesome, dude.
Oh, you did play that way? Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
As soon as I turned it on, I was like, oh, yeah.
It works on the fucking Steam controller.
Oh, cool.
Nice.
Yeah, as soon as I turned it on, I'm like, dude, I'm using the control. I could automatically tell. I was like,
the Steam controller is almost the best in a way, just because it's got those paddles underneath. So you've got enough buttons for everything you want to do without it being kind of ridiculous. You know?
Yeah, that's tight.
Because the rise and fall, the crouch and go up, or just people are more used to that in the game space, whereas in the controller space, putting that like on the bumper things, it's such a pain in the ass. Take your finger off the trigger button.
Yeah.
Unlike the Steam controller, you have these under paddles that you're holding the controller. Your other fingers underneath have these paddles, kind of like paddles on the steering wheel of a car. Do you know what I'm talking about? Those things, those are fucking great. I wish every controller had those.
Oh yeah.
Huh.
So I mean, that's like the only part in a way of what they did that was just really fucking awesome was those under buttons. I mean, there's a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
it's just like it's funny this turned into therapy for me. Okay, what am I here to buy? It's like once you write down what you think and fold it up, and then next month we're gonna open that.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
I take entirely what you said to heart, and that's why I'm trying to answer honestly by saying we don't know quite yet what we're doing. We're gonna allow ourselves to not work on it, be okay with that. You know, it is like therapy. You know. And when we figure out what we're going to do, we'll go forward with that and not feel bad about it. You know, whatever that is.
There you go.
Yeah. So I'm with you, man.
What I was going to say as a closing thought was, I think it's exactly that you described, that you sit it down when you're not feeling it. You find that you're not really able to do it when you're not in the right frame of mind, and it's not the same as, well, I have to fill out my taxes or I'm going to, get arrested. It's this thing where it's like, I don't feel this flowing through me right now. I think the fact that you're sticking to that is exactly what people are connecting with on the player end. I think that's exactly why they're so hungry for it. And for that reason, whichever direction you go, I think you guys are going to do very well. So cool. I would say absolutely, don't beat yourself up. I think that's exactly what got you here.
Cool. And there is a lot there. So, shipping what we have is reasonable when it comes to content. And we've got more done than we shipped. We got a bunch before we had said, geez, I just got to put this down for a while. We actually made some progress. And in fact, we did even stupid things like we expanded the scope a little bit and tried to make a level that involved making new features even a little bit to try to mix this up. So if we go forward, we're probably going to have to axe that, to be realistic, and just get some levels done with features that already do work. Get it done, ship it. You know what I mean? But just so that you know, there's an awful lot there. Since you just tasted the waters there, J-Rex, you can see why people like it, because it gets pretty deep, right? It gets pretty deep. Man. I can definitely sort of tease you at this point, knowing what you did. I can say, oh, you know what? And I can get you to play the next couple levels and then the next level after that, because we've got an awful lot packed in there. You know what I mean? Well, we essentially are giving it at the fastest pace that we can with that philosophy of people have to kind of figure it out on their own. And so we just kind of give them something in a sense that's kind of like we show you, and then we let you use it. And then we do it like every other one like that. Over and over. So
that's awesome.
So we will definitely look forward to seeing things progress, and I'm excited to have you not too far away when that happens.
Absolutely.
Paul, thanks again, and come back anytime.
All right, later.
All right, that does it for this week. I want to thank Paul Dana once again for his time. Check out Plastic Games, check out BitShifter on Early Access on Steam. It's a great game with clearly big stuff coming in the future. Thanks again to John Schreiber for hanging out with us this week, and if you enjoyed the show, please feel free to subscribe on iTunes, Google Play, we're on SoundCloud, drop us a rating or review, share it with a friend. Interact with us on social media. That's just as important to us, and we wouldn't do this if it weren't for the great discussions and the just the awesome dialogue we get to participate in. So for my co-host John Schreiber, for our guest Paul Dana, and for CodeWritePlay.com, my name's Todd Mitchell. Thanks, keep playing, and we will talk to you next week.